And that's when I found out there was no heartbeat. I just left my body. I just left my body. I was just like, this is not happening to me. This is a movie happening to someone else. This isn't happening to me. And I'm like, in any moment now, they're going to say to me, like, joke, or do you know what I mean? Like, you know, prank, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Right, I hear the name Erica. I looked it up. What does Erica mean? And it said power and authority. And I just got to tap into that, like, every so often. I didn't, you know, it's not that I never felt sad, but, you know, it really meant something to have my house full of pink cards. Do you know what I mean? It brought a little glimmer. It brought a bit of joy into my house, and I thought, I can't just lean into be you know, she passed away. Like, I had a little girl, and she is mine. Like, do you know what I mean? She is mine. I'm a mum of 3. Yeah. And when it comes to emotions, you know, what I've learned in the last 3 years more than I've ever is that, you know, there's no wrong or right emotion, but they are like signposts from your body, letting you know what's important to you and which way to go and what to seek after. Because every emotion is, you know, energy in motion, and the invitation from that emotion is go and do something. You know, I think, right, often people think, oh, it's the anniversary, so I'm going to feel low. I've never had an anniversary where I felt low. I've actually used it as an opportunity to be like, God, show up for me today. And he has, right? Yes. So Erica passed away 13th. She was delivered the 14th. But her due date was the 27th of April. And
I don't know, you've never told me that before.
That's when
that's Zion's birthday. That's the day Zion was born, 27th of April.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't always meet people's expectations of what grief looks like. So I didn't want lots of flowers, and I definitely did not want lots of sympathy cards. What I wanted was birthday cards to acknowledge that I'd had a girl. Like if you just went straight to her death, then it was like she would never, you know. And today is, you know, a particularly special day. So today is 3 years since my daughter Erica passed away, and she passed away at 25 weeks.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Love, Life and Loss. Today we have the amazing Audua joining us. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, Audua, and it means a lot to me that we're doing it today as well. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So would you please introduce yourself so everybody can get to know a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so my name is Audua. Lou and I have been friends since, I don't know, a long time now. Many years. I'm a Bedford girl, but my mum's from Venezuela. My dad's Australian, but I grew up here pretty much, or keep coming back to here. I'm a mum of 3 children. I got my stepson, but yeah, mum of 3/4. So I've got 2 children around me today. My son Eden, who is 11, Allegra, who is 7. I work for the NHS, and I also do something called Movement is Medicine, which is a neuroscience-backed method that is all about releasing acute, chronic and post-traumatic stress from the body. It's music-led, it's body-led movement, using Afrobeats, garage, house, drum and bass. It's very much in line with my day job, because my day job is all about signposting people to non-clinical support. So this movement medicine instructor role is just moving myself along the chain, and I'd love to do more of it, you know, just because I'm particularly passionate about music and movement. Yeah, and what else? That's it. That's all I want to say. Or don't want to ramble on anymore.
I mean, well, that's amazing on its own. So, and anybody that's listening, is amazing. I'm always promoting it, and I always say that movement is so healing, and I'm such a big fan of movement and helping you to release your trauma. So, and Adua's one of the people that helped teach me that as well.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, it's imperative. Like, if you are living with trauma, if you're living with PTSD, you know, we know that you know, trauma is not always held in the memory, it's held in the body. And so it's absolutely necessary to find a way to release trauma from the body. Otherwise you will spend years just talking about your trauma, but never really bringing your body back to a place of safety.
Yeah, and that's the key. And talking's not for everybody either. So would you like to start your story from the beginning, and whatever that looks like to you?
Yeah. So I was, despite Lou being a very good friend of mine, right, and I feel like, our baby loss journeys have brought us closer together, haven't they? We share something I share something with, and often that is the case, isn't it? You share something with someone, and that deepens the intimacy, the relationship. But I've never really been able to listen to your podcasts. I've listened to one, and it brought me to tears, and it was hard to shift out of that space. And I guess because of that, I've not really returned. So I feel in some ways a bit hypocritical being here on the podcast.
Oh no!
But it's not about that, is it? And I think I'll just make this point now because I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of women. Is that sometimes when we go through grief and loss, that actually because of all the chronic stress that we're managing on a day-to-day basis, the challenges that life and the curveballs that we get thrown, we never really get to address the grief because we're just firefighting on a daily basis. And so that's definitely part of my story. So that's, but so what I was going to say is that whilst I know you've had so many people now, haven't you? How many people have you?
I think I'm in the 30s. I'm not actually
30s. Come on,
late 20s. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I don't know if you've ever had someone come on and really talk from a faith perspective, because that's what my story is. Yeah,
a lot of people do, especially when we delve into different cultures as well.
I mean, I suspected you would, but I guess mine's quite faith heavy, and in order for me to show up authentically, that is what I'm going to bring today. So yeah, I hope that doesn't mean that people that aren't about that will switch off.
No,
but I have to. I like, if I was to tell it another way, I wouldn't be telling it the way that in my heart I so want to share it.
And this is your story, this is your journey, this is what I'm trying not to interrupt you, but I just want to make this one point that the whole point of this podcast, there's two elements. There's one for the people that are listening to help those people if that's what they want to with their journey, their healing journey, but it's also to help educate people who are surrounded by people that are healing and grieving. But the other element is what you're doing right now. Just by coming on this, I'm creating a space for you and others to be able to tell your story how you want it to be told. So this is what this is today. This is your journey, this is your story. Tell it how you want to tell it.
Thank you. And I think, earlier I was meditating on there's another lady that I follow. She comes and dances with us, right? Mel. She has a grief support group, which I'm sure lots of your audience would want to know, especially if they're living locally to Bedford. Echoes of the Soul. And she put a post a little while ago, I think it was last week, talking about how she was feeling a bit wobbly because she felt like she was maybe oversharing, and I was thinking about that this morning because I was thinking, what am I going to say? I was like, just don't say too much, like don't get too vulnerable, like don't. And I just thought, you know what? Like, what do most people say on their deathbed? I wish I showed up a bit more. I wish I told my story a little bit more. So I was just thinking about that today because I was thinking, do you know what? I'm going to tell my story. And then today is, a particularly special day. So today is 3 years since my daughter Erica passed away, and she passed away at 25 weeks. And so I'll start with where the story begins then, right? And I love that you gave me permission to start wherever I wanted. So where I'm going to begin is probably just before I found out that I was pregnant with her. Now, I am a Christian. I haven't always been a Christian. I'm what you call a born-again believer. So I had that dramatic sort of Damascus moment where I'm like, okay, God, right, you're real and I'm going to follow you. And I remember, I say that because of what I'm about to go on and say. I remember at the time we were living in temporary accommodation, right? So we bidded on a house. We were meant to move out. It all fell through. They were going to move us into a hotel. Me being me, I was like, I'm not having that. You're not putting me in a hotel. And somehow, by God's provision, we ended up being in a penthouse, right? Penthouse. Did you ever come?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
Wasn't invited.
See? Awkward. No. So people at penthouse, there are penthouses off the river in Bedford, and we lived in that penthouse for like 7 months. We got moved around a little bit, but all in all, we were there rent free. And God really used it. You know, we were able to save up some money that helped us when we moved into here to get some stuff. And, you know, you don't always understand why you're going through it, but then you look back and you think it was just amazing provision. And I remember when we were in that house, like Allegra it was the summer holidays. Allegra was due to start reception, my youngest daughter. And Jonathan, my husband, who unfortunately now, you know, we appear to be separating, but back then when things were a little bit better, he just came home one day and he was brushing Allegra's teeth. I don't know if I told you this bit, right? He was brushing Allegra's teeth and he was like, yeah, if we have another child, we should call them Miracle. And I was like, you know, we were not on that page at all. Do you know what I mean? So it was really, but when he said it, like, whether you're a believer of the same God I believe in, Yahweh, the creator of the universe, or you're into just you know, the universe or whatever, like whatever it is, as soon as he said it, I was like, be quiet. Because I knew that he was speaking something to be. And I was like, no, that's not my plan, right? Like my youngest daughter, who's only just recently started to sleep, is going to reception. Like, no, we're not going back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of those. And so, yeah. And then I found out that I was pregnant. And actually, the day I found out was the anniversary of my father passing, which is also the same day Magda's birthday. So it was a loaded day.
Magda's her sister.
Magda's my sister, yeah, who I haven't always had a great relationship with, right? And that's why I say it's loaded, because, you know, it's her birthday. Our father's passed away on that day. Do you know what I mean? There's not the connection that you want there to be. There's just a void. It just feels like this, you know. So I found out I was pregnant that day, and I spoke to her, called her for her birthday, and she was in tears. She was really upset. I won't go into that because that's her business, but you know, partly why she was in tears is because she really wanted to fall pregnant. And she started telling me a little bit about that. And I'm there with this fresh news that I'm pregnant. I didn't say anything to her at the time or whatever. I just let her speak or whatever. So yeah, so I found out I was pregnant, and I remember I've got a dear close friend, and it's important that I share this part. I nearly called her before to be like, can I tell this bit? And I thought, no, I've got to tell this bit because it's really, really part of my daughter's story, Erica. And so my other friend, you know, she's got quite a number of children, single mum at the time, and I bumped into her and we found out that we were both pregnant at the same time. Now, a few weeks later, she said to me, I'm going to get rid of the baby, right? And I didn't want to have, you know, as a Christian, I've got views on that, but I ain't trying to judge no one, right? Because I am not in your shoes. You know, I don't know what it's like on your date. So I'm not, I know, like, you know, and I can't even say that I would never, do you know what I mean? Because I've never been in that situation, do you know what I mean? So it's not a place of judgment, but what I did say to her, I said to her, look, if you're going to do it, then please don't do it from a place of fear. Don't do it as I can't afford it, or, you know, I won't be able to handle it, you know, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to do it from a place of power and authority. Like, do it because you know that that's what you need to do. But don't let fear be your driver. And at the same time, like, she wasn't a believer at that time. I said to her, call on the God that I keep telling you about. Ask him to show up for you, right? Because I believe that God, you know, knits the babies in our womb. So if he's going to give you that child, then he's got to give you everything else that you need to bring up this child. So I said, call on the God that I keep telling you about. And she did. And he met with her in a really powerful way. And she's now a believer and follows the same God, Yahweh, that I do. But that's really significant because, you know, weeks later, you know, Erica passed away. And the way that happened was, you know, when your belly gets really tight. So I was 25 weeks and your belly's really tight and you're starting to feel movement, but it was really itchy and tight. So I spent the whole day at work just scratching my belly, moving around. I worked at King's House at this time, and yeah, I just didn't really feel the movement that day because I'm at work, and the focus was how tight my belly felt that day, right? And so when I've gone to bed that night, which is often when I would feel Erica moving, I didn't feel any movement. And I was like, oh. And then I just remember feeling this wave of sickness come over me. I just felt really nauseous. Nauseous, is it?
Yeah.
Right? That word always comes out differently, right? Yeah. And so I felt nauseous. And then I just fell asleep. And then I woke up, went to work the next day. Oh, and that's right. It was the next day, sorry, that I had the belly itching thing. Right. So I laid down, didn't feel the movement, went to bed, had a busy day at work, and then I went to the hospital. And that's when I found out there was no heartbeat. And I just left my body. I just left my body. I just thought, this is not happening to me. This is a movie happening to someone else. This is not my life.
It doesn't happen to people.
This doesn't happen to me.
Yeah.
This doesn't happen to me. And I'm like, in any moment now, they're going to say to me, like, joke, or do you know what I mean? Like, prank, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So there was a little moment that I just wanted to go back and say something, but I lost it. So, oh, sorry, what I wanted to say. So I can't remember if it happened before that incident with my friend, right? But I remember when I was in that penthouse, right? One day I'm there still working out, right? Working out to weights. And I'm there doing let me say the name to make myself sound like I really know what I'm talking about. Deadlift. Is it deadlift?
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm doing the deadlift, right? Or whatever, right? And I do the name, and I hear the name Erica straight away. Right, I hear the name Erica. I looked it up. What does Erica mean? And it said power and authority. And yeah, sorry. So I got that. So that happened to me. And then I had that conversation with my friend, and I said, don't let fear be the driver. Do it from a place of power and authority. And I remember when I said it in that moment, I thought, God's giving me these words right now.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like it wasn't coming from me. So I just felt like that's really, really important piece. So after Erica passed away, that was Friday the 13th. And
Friday the 13th?
Yeah, it was Friday the 13th. Yeah, that's right. But you know what? Honestly, the tapestry of God is so good, because I remember this time last year on the 2nd year anniversary, I just remember being like, God, I'm so upset that she passed away on Friday the 13th. Like, I really hate that. Like, it really, it gets me a bit mad. Anger tends to be my go-to emotion, right?
Like a lot of us.
I was just talking to him about that, and then boom, all of a sudden, it's like he opened my eyes. He was like, your dad was born on Friday the 13th. And not the same month, right?
Yeah.
But it was just like that revelation just came to me, and it's just given me peace ever since. Like they say, like, one life comes in, another life goes out. So she passed away on the same day, not same month, whatever, right? But it was still Friday the 13th that my dad was born, and she died on Friday the 13th. And I found out that I found out she was conceived on the day that he died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The months might not be lined up, but the dates are. And I just, ever since then, I've been able to I've just had peace about it. But prior to that, and that was a year today that happened. And here I am a year today doing this with you. It's so meaningful. It's so meaningful. But so anyway, I went home, which was very, very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. To go home and you're just like, carrying them inside you, and and I can't put words to that, Lou. I can't put words to that. And then what they said was, come back at 7 a.m. And because I've had 2 cesareans before, I was advised at the time that I ought to proceed with a 3rd cesarean, which to me is a blessing, because the idea of having to give birth, I mean, honestly, and I guess those are maybe some of the kind of stories that I have tried to avoid by not listening to your podcast, because I don't want to hear that from anyone. You know, it's too much. I don't want anyone to go through that. And people do, don't they? So, I had a cesarean, which is hard in itself, but not the same thing, right? I think the other is just next level.
No, we don't do that here. I just stop that.
We don't.
No hierarchy. Everyone's hard is hard.
It's so true.
We don't do that here.
Yeah, but I guess these are the thoughts that go through your head, isn't it? You think, oh God, I'm so glad I had to go through that, and then I'm finding that as an opportunity to give some thanks, because
and do that, but don't minimize what's happened to you, because your heart is hard.
Yeah, indeed. And I remember the day before, so on Friday the 13th, it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I mean, we were there from about 5:30, so at 11 o'clock they're saying, right, come back tomorrow, we're going to do the delivery. What can we do to make this as easy as possible for you? And I was like, well, I'm 25 weeks. I haven't, this is my third child. Like, it's not my first child, whereas maybe someone would be super organized, do you know what I mean? And I'm also not that person, right? So 25 weeks, I've still got plenty of time. But the only thing I had give thought to, and by the way, I also hadn't had a scan. I've never had a scan. I always like to keep it a surprise. But I knew it was a girl because of the name.
Yeah.
I knew that I was having a girl, right? So I didn't officially know, but I knew. And so the only thing I had really given thought to was that I wanted to get a little zebra for my daughter Erica, right? Or for the baby that was coming, right? And the reason why is, again, God's tapestry at work here is both my children have zebras like this. Allegra has a little one, right? And this was given to my son Eden, who's 12 next week, by my sister who had come over from Australia, and she gave it to him as a gift for his blessing, right? Okay. When he was 1 year old. And then the other one, which is again just the same as this, but a bit smaller, was given by another friend. So the zebra thing wasn't an Audua thing, didn't come from me. It came as a result of, it came from different places. Yet, even though these children have got enough cuddlies, right, they both dote on the same cuddly, right? I don't know if Allegra just followed in her footsteps. I don't think so, because she's not wired like that. She does her own thing.
She had her own.
Yeah, she's got her own mind, right? But they both dote on these cuddlies, okay? So as a result of that, that's the only thing I'd given thought to. I was like, I want a zebra for this baby that's coming, because that's what we're building. The children have spoken, right? And so I said at 11 o'clock at night, where are you going to get me a zebra for 7 a.m. the next day? So anyway, go into the operating room, and as my midwife, who was amazing at Beth Hospital, I'm sure that's not always the case, but this lady was amazing. As I'm on the table and they're putting the needle into my spine, which is always a vulnerable moment, is it not? The lady comes up to me, she holds my hand, and she says to me, so by now it's like 10 a.m. or something, and she says to me, we've got you a zebra, right? And I just burst into tears. Right? I was just like, oh my Lord, thank you so much. Like, I'm not expecting anyone to do that. And then she screams. Yeah. I have told you
this story. I don't remember the scream.
You maybe forget. It's been a while. It was 3 years ago I told you this story, because you came around and saw me after, didn't you? So she screamed, and she was like, look at your wrist, right? And I look on my wrist, and my hospital tag, right, that's got my number and my name, the company that makes them is called Zebra, and it says Zebra on my wrist, and the actual hospital tag is like they've got a print of zebra all around it. And as soon as because she's literally given me the news, like, we've got you the toy. I'm like, thank you so much. And then she's like, straight off. And as soon as I said it, I just said to her,
are you having a needle put in your back at this time as well? Yeah. Oh my God, what's she trying to do, paralyze?
Yeah, well, she's trying to distract me from that, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe by now the needle's done. Okay. Yeah, you're right, the screaming, like, You do. Right, but so anyway, and as soon as she points to that, I just have this peace drop over me, and I respond to her without any thought. That's my God. That's how he works. He is letting me know I am right here with you. I am literally holding your hand in a way, and this whole moment has I've pulled it together. And we don't understand it because I'm like, why would this happen to me? But I don't believe that God like orchestrates evil, but I believe he works through it. Right. And so I felt like that in that moment, he was like, I'm right here. And then the way that story carries on, right, is after I've had Erica, and I won't go into that bit because it's just too much for me right now. But I call my mum, and my mum's over from Australia, right? She's visiting. I think she came for like 3 months and stayed for 9. Because I got pregnant during it.
Yes,
do you know what I mean?
I remember seeing her.
Yeah. So my mum Teresita, she's come over. I've called her and I said, Mum, if you go to this shop in town, there's a zebra, they've reserved it for me, right? Can you go get it? And so she goes and gets me the zebra, and then she calls me and she goes, this zebra, it's not the same, right? And I was like, okay, what do you mean? And rather than explain, she just says the same thing. It's not the same, right? And I'm like, but what do you mean, Mum? What's not this? A zebra's a zebra. Like, give me more, right? She just repeats the same thing, right? I'm like, Mum, buy the zebra, bring it to me, okay? Because we know, like we ain't got loads of time. We haven't got lots of, options. Just bring me the zebra. As soon as she brings me the zebra, straight away I understand what she's talking about, right? She's just not been able to articulate it over the phone to me. This zebra is like what, grey and cream. Yeah, and so's the other one. When she shows me the other zebra, it's what a typical zebra is. Black and white. It's black and white, and it's holding a little heart in the middle, and it says wild about you. And as soon as I look at that zebra, I feel God say to me, she's alive. She is alive. Part of my Christian belief is that when we come into relationship with God, when we say, you know what, I accept the gift that you died for me on the cross so that I could live. You died, you paid the penalty that I didn't have to, right? That we go from death to life, right? That's what my belief is. And I felt like in some ways these grey cream zebras just represent what it's like to be here on earth. And that when you get to go heaven, that's when it gets vibrant. That's when you get the full colour of black and white, because this is just a bit dull. And life is a bit like, ugh. Do you know what I mean?
Grey winter's day.
It just felt like he was saying the real life. Like this is just, you're just passing through. This is not the full, like, she's gone to paradise. And that's what I got straight away in that moment. God says she's alive. She is alive, and I do just feel like that carries me so much, that I'm just waiting to meet this young lady. I'm getting, she's there waiting for me. And so I tell all of that story to say that what proceeded after for a few months, I won't go into because it's a bit crazy, right? But what happened after that, and my guess part of the grief journey that I went through, is that I didn't always meet people's expectations of what grief looks like. Okay, so for example, when my daughter passed away, people wanted to send me flowers. If you go around my house, there's just green plants. Like, I like flowers to stay alive in the ground, right? Yeah. I'm not like, when I see the flowers in the pot, I'm like, that flower's dying. That's what I see. That's straight away what I see, and I'm not feeling that. So I didn't want lots of flowers, and I definitely did not want lots of sympathy cards. What I wanted was a birthday cards to acknowledge that I'd had a girl. Like, if you just went straight to her death, then it was like she would never, and the way I see it, I remember the night before my daughter's funeral, I wanted to write Erica's funeral. I wanted to write a few words, and God gave me the scripture. He said to me, I use the weak to confound the powerful. right? Now, I believe that, we've got the physical world, right? We've got the emotional, the mental, but we've got spirit. And the spirit world is real, really real, right? And there are powers and principalities that we are battling against, right? When you feel like you're doing something that really is your purpose, and there's just a battle to get there, because the enemy, right, which some people will be like, oh no, she sounds so weird, but it's true, right? Like, we know there's good and evil. We know there's good and evil. So I believe that, right, there is a fallen angel, the devil, who does not want to see me advance the kingdom of God, which is what I'm about. Okay, so I felt like, even with Erica, she saved a life. My friend's daughter, who is actually called, her name means miracle. I won't say her name because I don't want to out, but that's what her name means.
And they're going to go back to the conversation.
Go back to where it all started.
Jonathan
said, if we have another, we should call it Miracle. And she's like a daughter to me. This is my, this is the family that I've chosen for myself, because I've had a lot of childhood trauma that's caused a lot of relational trauma. And so building a community is part of my, it's my comeback. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have that growing up, and I live with complex PTSD as a result, because I felt so trapped as a child. I felt isolated. It was just mum, dad, and they, as much as I love them and I feel like they did the best by me, they didn't have the tools to parent me in the way that they weren't emotionally attuned to me. They were very emotionally neglectful because of their own trauma, so they didn't show up for me, and that, and that, that some of that will get passed on to my children, because I just didn't have the skills. But it's not about staying there, is it? I always say to people, your pain is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And so Erica has been a massive catalyst to my healing, right? And I'll get into that bit, but so where was I? So the way I see it is, Erica saved a life, and she didn't even breathe a breath. And that is the Almighty working through what I believe is just a tapestry of stuff that, when I get to heaven one day, will just blow my mind. Do you know what I mean? I'll get a fuller picture. Like, we know in part, we see in part here. And so I guess what happened over that pregnancy, everything that happened in the hospital, the funeral, as I said, my friend having the baby that's called, name means miracle, and she's now 3, coming up to 3. So it's always a reminder of where Erica would be at. But actually, I've not felt, that's not been hard. I don't know why. I feel like I've just been given a supernatural peace to be around this young lady, young girl. And I do feel that's heavenly. I feel like that because, as you'll know, Lou, you get triggers and you don't know where they're going to come from, right? And it is hard. When I see mums with 3 children, I find that hard. Like, my friend's actually got 4. So I feel like, do you know what I mean? I feel like that's just the little bit of grace that I needed for it not to be a trigger for me.
And that is sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it is a true blessing, because I've got a similar story, whereas I was the opposite. It was a huge trigger for me. I had to avoid that baby for a very long time. And it still does a little bit, but now it's different. I do have a relationship. But I do.
But the thing is, it's not like that every single time. Like, actually, while for the most part it's fine, I think around her birthday I find it really hard. So it's interesting, isn't it? And I feel like I'm not in control of any of that. Like, my body leads on all of that.
You could even forget the day. And for some reason you don't feel great, and then when you realise, put the dots together.
Absolutely. I just feel like my body leads. It lets me know, because I can't plan it. I can't prepare for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, today, I think often people think, oh, it's the anniversary, so I'm going to feel low. I've never had an anniversary where I felt low. I've actually used it as an opportunity to be like, God, show up for me today. And he has. I remember, like, the first year, so on the first day of the first anniversary, I woke up and I'd arranged toil for that day. I'm never one to remember dates very well, right? So I can't even say that I was just like, oh, it's Erica's. No, actually, it was her due date. Sorry, that was it. It was her. So when Erica passed, it wasn't the first anniversary. I get things confused, right?
Yes.
So Erica passed away 13th. She was delivered the 14th. But her due date, which I actually remember the due date for all my children, right? Because you spend 9 months thinking about it, don't you?
Yeah.
Was the 27th of April. And so I kind of...
I don't know if you've never told me that before.
That's when...
that's Zion's birthday. That's the day Zion was born, 27th of April.
Was it really?
Yeah. You never told me that before, yeah.
Wow.
27th of February you were born that day.
Wow, that's... Oh, wow. Wow. And so...
That's maybe a bit, mate.
Yeah. And this is what I mean. It's just, like, to me, it's God's tapestry. And so it's because I have...
doing it right now.
It's happening.
It's happening right now.
Unfolding in front of you. That is amazing. Yeah. Come on. Like, do you know what I mean? I just think... And so anyway, so that day, right, I booked some toil. Like I never book toil, right? Because I never have any. I do my hours and I'm off, right? Because I don't love my job, because I've got other things to do, right? And so so I booked some toil, woke up that day, realised I'd booked the toil, and then clocked that it was Erica's due date, you know, only weeks later. And it just felt like the kindness of God, like the gentleness of God, that I hadn't planned it.
Yeah.
Like he kind of did the planning for me. And then I was like, wow, God, thank you so much for giving me this day. Let's spend it together. Where shall we go? And I felt like him say, let's go to a garden centre, right? So I drove out to Frost's in Wellington and I was like, yeah, let's get a plant. Let's get a plant for Erica, like one, not flowers, like a plant that's going to stay and it's going to grow. And while I'm there, I see this plant and it's purple and green. Now, Erica's colour is purple. There's another faith story behind that. I won't get into it, right? But that's her colour, purple, royalty. That's where she's at, right? And my colour is green. Green has always been, I've always said to people, right? If you could see green the same way I do, it would be your favourite colour too. Okay, so I love green. And I see this plant. Where is it? It's that. See that one over there? She can't see the camera, but anyway, right? It's a bit like that, but more vibrant. The purple's more vibrant, right? And I see this plant, and it's purple and green. I'm like, that's the plant. I'm gonna get that plant. And I look at it. I pull out the thing. The plant's called Zebrina.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, it's got some other long plant name as well. But on the thing it says Zebrina. You know, like zebra. I was like, this is it. And I was like, thank you, God. And then that plant, I mean, actually died recently. But anyway, but the fact that it lived in my house, right, for like just under 3 years, and it went from this big to huge. And actually it felt like God was in the plant dying as well. I'm not going to go into that, but anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that after Erica passed away, because I saw the hand of God so much on the whole situation, you know, from my friend not giving up her baby and seeing that through, and her coming to faith, you know, and just the whole zebra incident and, you know, all of that coming together, I found it really hard in some ways to be sad, because I just felt like, okay, God, this has not gone where I thought it would, right? But you are doing something. Like, I don't get it, but I see you. I see you. And it's like, I feel like a bit of a super agent, right? That's how I feel as a Christian. I feel like a super agent, that I am always, like, I do not do business. My decision-making businesses, the decision-making for business is not always like, you know, according to the, you know, business strategy textbooks, right? It could just be a lorry goes past and it says something like, just do it. And I'm like, right. Do you know what I mean? These are the way, that's how I live. I live by faith. I live by faith. And so whilst I was grieved and sad, I had this supernatural joy, because I was like, you're up to something. And I see you moving. And so, yeah, I mean, I got those pink cards because, I mean, when my house was filled with that pink card, like I didn't have to just sort of wallow in the sympathy cards because there weren't any, by the way. I just had this, like, I had a little girl. I had a little girl, and I just got to tap into that, like, every so often. I didn't, it's not that I never felt sad, but, it really meant something to have my house full of pink cards. Do you know what I mean? It brought a little glimmer. It brought a bit of joy into my house, and I thought, I can't just lean into be she passed away. Like, I had a little girl, and she is mine. Like, do you know what I mean? She is mine. I'm a mum of 3.
Yeah.
She's not around, that's the other bit, but I had a little girl.
Yeah, and I rate you so much for doing that as well, for knowing what you wanted at that time, because that on its own is difficult enough to know what you want at that moment, but to voice it as well, because so many people will just sit in the uncomfortable, take things because they don't want to say or make people feel bad or make people feel awkward, but I'm so glad.
Listen, some flowers got dashed and put in the bin because I didn't tell some people, and I thought, I just got to say, and I thought, this is triggering, it's upsetting me too much. So
and you won't be alone in that either. I think a lot of people that listening could resonate with that, because it's people mean well, their intentions are well, but they don't understand what it puts on you. It's another thing to look after. And it's another thing to watch die. It's
and it's and as I said, so much of this is, when it comes to emotions, what I've learned in the last 3 years more than I've ever, is that there's no wrong or right emotion, but they are like signposts from your body, letting you know what's important to you and which way to go and what to seek after, because every emotion is energy in motion, and the invitation from that emotion is go and do something, right? And when I say go and do something, I mean, like, like I felt that grief before we started, didn't we? And so what I needed was someone to hold me, or anger can mean like, right, I need to move my body, I need to shift something. Do you know what I mean? It's all a call to action in some ways. And so so the follow on from this is that where my story leads, and I believe this is part of the Pain to Power.
This is part of your journey, and it's just I just think it's amazing how you've gone along on this journey, and I really want to share that with other people.
So this is definitely a pain to power, pain to purpose story. Now, one thing I do want to say, because it's just come to me, is I had one day with my daughter, and I remember thinking to myself, I've got a day with you, and what's one thing that I love to do with my children? I love to read with them, right? Like, I don't ever really remember being read to as a child, right? But there's something about reading that just really speaks of presence, right? And so I just remember getting out the Bible, and there was a chapter from Isaiah that I just read over and over and over again. And so I shared that with her, because that's something that I've done with all my children, and so it was really important to me that I also got to do that with her. And also it was like, well, what do I do? Do I sit here and cry? Like, do I talk? Like, what am I meant to do with this time? How do I make it meaningful? Because I've got a limited amount of time before she gets removed and taken away from me. I'll tell you one thing which you might be shocked at, and maybe other people, but I'd love to know if this resonates with anyone. But since the day we buried her, I have not been back. I have not been back to that space. And sometimes I think about it. Sometimes I remember, like, I don't mean to be unkind, but I remember my mum would make me feel bad for not going back. Like, oh, I can't believe you've not gone back. But I just think my daughter's not dead. She's not dead. So why am I going to go there? Like, and I know that for someone else, that's like an absolute, like, what would you call, like, an altar of coming to meet and spend time, and it's so meaningful. So I totally understand that is very different, and that's why I said this. So much of this grief is, or any emotion, is so body led, isn't it? Like, your body is letting you know what works for you and what doesn't. And I'm so glad in some ways that, I mean, I do get feelings every so often where I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back and just, like, I don't know, tidy up the space or whatever. But
you've got to do what's right for you. And, you know, everyone's different, and this is a judgment-free zone as well. And it definitely will be people that can resonate with you. But I've seen it. See, I am the opposite. But I grew up going to the cemetery. So, you know, my dad died when I was 6. So that was the only space I had for him as a kid. So I go there all the time. And it's actually my spot. I find comfort there, I find peace there. But I will tell you, when it comes to Zion, and when they were saying about burying him, I refused to bury him in the baby bit.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't like that bit. That bit really? Just. I don't want anyone to feel bad or anything. And they said everyone's interpretation is perception. But for me, going there felt like a horror story. You would see all the the faded teddy bears, the windmills, and stuff, and they tried to make it look nice, but to me it just felt like it felt like a horror story, and I could not bear the thought of him being up there on his own. And so when my mum suggested burying him with my dad, I was so that was God coming to me, like saving me.
But doing it your way.
Yeah, because now I feel at peace to know that he's with my dad. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. And that's what I mean. We've got to be so in tune, and that's hard, especially if you've spent a lifetime being dissociated, not in tune with yourself. And so, the follow-on from all of this is that I think it was about a month after Erica passed away, because obviously I'm recovering from a C-section. I've gone back to church. Okay, I go to King's Arms Church, and I remember the drums would start going, and I would start to shake. I'd start to just, shake in my body. And, I as I said, I've been a newborn Christian about 12, 13 years, and church actually hasn't always been a positive experience for me. And I left one church and I came to this one, and, in many ways it's been a corrective experience from what I went through before.
Okay.
People don't always represent God, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I don't represent God, in the ways that I should, or the way that He designed me to, etc. So that's everyone, right? But I went to King's Arms, and it was a corrective experience, and I think I got to a place where I felt safe enough to, rather than be like, because I could have stopped the shaking, but I decided to lean into it because it felt so like my body was leading me, right? So I just allowed myself to shake, and not straight away, not immediately, but over time, that shaking evolved and it became expressive worship. And I am known as the dancing lady in church, because I think what happened was I started to shake, and then over time, as I said, it would turn into like expressive dance. And I've always loved dancing. I cannot tell you how much I love dancing, right? I can't express it through words. I can only express it through dance.
And she does.
Yeah, I do. But you know what? And this is why, again, the tapestry of God just kept me going, in terms of like, God, I see what you're doing. I have a joy. I still had the grief. It's not that it's not there. It's just I had a joy alongside it, and a curiosity and an anticipation of, what are you doing? Where are we going? What are you up to? An excitement.
Faith, isn't it?
It's faith. It's faith.
It's kept your faith.
Yeah, I kept my faith, and so I literally, and I say to you, I go to a church, right, where it's live music, it's loud, it's all the good things, right? And people do not move, people do not dance. So I stick out like a sore thumb, right? And and sometimes I would, because I dance at the back mainly, but then because people are arriving late and you've got the stewards trying to help them find chairs, I've got to move out the way, I've got to be I'm not letting go. And I just felt the Spirit really lead me, and I still do it to this day. So actually 3 years later, I'm still dancing in church. So I think maybe some people thought that might be just like...
She might stop in the face.
But I was only dancing, I just pegged it to the front on Sunday, right? And I'll whiz up the front like a little child, right? And I danced like David. And if anyone knows the story of David in the Bible, he danced till his clothes came off. Yeah, and
keep clothes on it.
Yeah,
I think they might talk about that.
the clothes stay on. Actually, I think on Sunday I was so like just worshipping, like, you know, like, because that's what it does. I'm just like, God, you're so amazing, right? That's what it is. Like, I don't understand why I'm going through what I'm going, and that's what I was going through during that season, because that was all brand new. I mean, I've been doing it for a while now, but back then it was all brand new. The church were getting used to me doing like that. You know, I'd actually shout a lot as well. I'd shout my head off. I'm like, ah, you know, but it was all. What I'm realizing is that the movement, the sound, it's all thematic. It's all release. It's all shifting. And, you know, as someone who lives with complex PTSD, I've got my various triggers. One of them is when I see someone with their hand over their mouth, that can make me burst into tears. And so I feel like that season, because I don't actually do it anymore, the shouting, but there was a season where I would just shout for God. And it was a really loud shout, actually. And I think a couple of people left the church because, yeah, that's what they said to me. A couple of people left because they're not happy about me doing that. But the Bible says, give a loud shout unto the Lord. So they had to let me.
They couldn't kick her out, basically.
Yeah. I don't think my church have always been in that space. I think there have been times where people have shouted or got too noisy, and they've been asked to keep it down. But it feels like the culture of the church is shifting. And actually, if we talk sort of a bit Christian talk, you talk about a religious spirit. You know, what we talk about with a religious spirit is, you know, God, you know, God is the absolute opposite to religion. Like the Pharisees, right, were religious men that thought they were better than others, right? And God would, and Jesus would rebuke them all the time. Like, who are you? You know, you praise God with your mouth, but yet your hearts are far away. Yeah. You know, so actually, in some ways, I feel like when we talk about, you know, the work that God has done through me and through all of this and through the tragedy of my daughter passing away, is I'm up in that church every Sunday, you know, shutting down the spirit of religion, because there's nothing tame about my worship. Do you know what I mean? It is wild. It is undignified. It is whole heart worship, because that's what dance is, isn't it? It's movement with your whole heart. You know, I'm not holding back, and I'm literally worshipping for an audience of one. And I did go through a long journey, especially in the first year, of always being like just laying out my worship to God. And then I'd spend the rest of the week like just feeling a bit embarrassed, feeling a bit of shame, and being like, right, that's it, I'm never going back to that church. Right? Not because anyone said anything, but because of all the internal voices. But over a year later, I don't have any of that now. I've shaken all of that off. Good. I've shaken that off, and I go there and I just meet with the God that made me, and I just thank him. And that's why often, you know, with a Christian church, they'll say, you can't judge someone's worship because you don't know what God's done for them. You don't know how he showed up.
Why should we be judging that? Isn't that part of it? You shouldn't be judging anyway.
Absolutely. So in some ways it feels like, you know, the dance, you know, and, you know, I've had people say to me, you know, sometimes I look at you and I think, have I not got a bit more to give God? Have I not got a bit, do you know what I mean? Like I've had lots of people say to me, I'm moved by the way you worship.
Yeah. You know? Especially considering what you've gone through.
Especially when they find out. And I can't say that's from me. All I can say is that that's how God has, that's what he's put me on this. Like, I don't take that credit. I don't say it's, you know, what I say is, that's what I've been here for. That's why I'm here.
You should take some credit, because
take some.
You've allowed it. You know, like you said, you have that embarrassment, like that shame, whatever. Yeah, but you could have taken that and stopped doing what you're doing, but you didn't.
No.
You allowed yourself to feel. You allowed yourself to carry it, and then you allowed yourself to have that faith.
And I guess an all-knowing God knew that about me, you know, and said, this girl will keep going. You know, she'll you know. And so it's a story of faith. It's of how faith kept me, and what happened a year later, I connected with a charity, Bright Emotion. She's a local charity that supports children and families with emotional regulation and resilience. And I remember I got a job at King's House. This was before I fell pregnant, and God was all over that as well. Because when I started going to King's Arms after my other old church experience, I wasn't trying to get to know one. I thought to myself, bun you lot, right? Like, if I don't get to know you, you can't hurt me. And in a church of 1,000 people, really easy to do that. And then I went and got a job at King's House on reception, and it was like God used it to get me to know people and for them to know me. And I built safety. There, and I think that's again part of why I lent into the shaking when it started happening. So again, his tapestry at work as always. But after Erica passed away, a year later, I met with Sophie. So the reason why I brought up that role is because I came across Bright Emotions on the website. And I remember I was sitting at my desk at reception and I was just bawling my eyes out because it was talking about emotional regulation and how often, if we've had an emotionally neglectful childhood, we grow up as adults really struggling with that. And that's definitely my story. So I was really ministered to in that moment by what this lady was creating, and I thought, I want to be part of this. And so I reached out to her, Sophie. Big up Sophie. Honestly, she's such a gift to me and my life. And we connected, and then she just wasn't in the headspace, right? And so actually she took a little bit of a pause from what she was doing. So then we reconnected. So forget the timelines, right? Because I'm not even very keeping up with that. But anyway, the point is, a year after, I bumped into Sophie after not seeing her for a while at the coffee shop, and I said, let's get together because I'm still on it to volunteer for you, right? We made a date, met at the coffee shop. On my way there, I am so dysregulated. And I'm like, I have no capacity. Why am I meeting this girl? I am totally wasting her time. I can't take on anything else. I'm struggling. I'm drowning. I'm absolutely drowning. I cannot cope with what's on my plate now. So I say hi to her and I tell her straight away. I go, hi, Sophie, I'm completely wasting your time. I've got no capacity to volunteer. I don't know why I'm here. I just want to tell you straight off the bat. So if you want to leave now, then, see you later. Well, maybe, we can do this another time. And we just started chatting. So that's what I was like, because I'm like that. That's what. Do you know what I mean? I ain't trying to, because if you've got other things to do, if you're waiting to get a volunteer today, it's not happening. So
it's not for me anyway.
40 minutes to tell you, I'm not going to I'll just give it to you now. And so anyway, we sat and she told me about movement is medicine. Sophie was the one that introduced me to it. So Movement is Medicine was founded by another lady, Emma. I can't remember her name. Right, Emma. Movement is Medicine. It's MIM HQ if you're looking for it on Instagram. And so she has her own testimony around chronic stress, medical trauma, living with the chronic illnesses that no GP could diagnose. It all went under mystery illness. And as a result of her becoming incredibly unwell, and this was all in her 20s, so very, very young, I think her hair fell out, skin was, like she literally thought she was going to die. She got some GoFund money after the doctors couldn't help her here in the UK. After a long journey of just being unwell, got some GoFund money, went to Mexico because Mexico have a much more of a holistic approach towards well-being. Got some treatment. They were like, your immune system has shut down. Like you have not been listening to the signs of stress. She also had some like medical trauma, so it wasn't just all about work-related stress or anything else. There were different factors that were contributing to why her body had shut down. But the point is, is that not often the case that actually our body speaks to us through whispers and we don't listen? We don't pay attention.
Yeah.
And actually the culture that we live in doesn't teach us or nurture us to listen to our bodies.
Or allow us that space to do that.
Give us the space.
It's like, well, even if you are listening, you just got to keep moving anyway.
Absolutely. So we're fighting against that culture. And so, she went over there, got some treatment, but while she was there, and I might get some of the details wrong, but you can
you can look it up.
Yeah, you can look it up. You can read her story online. she met with shamans. Okay, she met with some shamans and or some indigenous people group, and what she learned is that they use drums as a form of healing. They come together to dance round drums. When I say dance, I don't mean perform. I mean to release, to let go, to connect. Not just to connect with themselves, but with each other as well. And that then led her to go on this massive journey of like really looking into chronic stress, how it impacts the body, how drums, music, dancing, and we call it movement because so many people are put off by the name or the term dance. They hear dance and they think, I've got to look a certain way, I've got to dance, I've got to move a certain way, but that's not true. Let me just squash that right now for you. You know, you danced before you could crawl. Okay, well, you could paint before you could write your name. Like, these are intuitive. This is what makes us human. These are, creativity. I often think is in all of us. Yeah. Because in my opinion, we're made by a creator, right? But what that creativity looks like will come out in a million and different ways, right? You know, a builder is creative. Right? Creative doesn't always mean a paintbrush, right? So it's just about outlet. It's an outlet for, especially for that emotional side of stuff. Do you know what I mean? We need to be able to express, to let go, because where does all that energy go otherwise, you know? So anyway, Emma then created and founded Movement is Medicine, and there are lots of instructors up and down the country, I think even internationally as well. And her method is a neuroscience-backed method that uses body-focused meditation, followed by free-flow, non-judgmental, rave-inspired movement. And it's all the best parts of raving, right? So, you know, raving without the alcohol, because actually, you know, we think the alcohol is what makes you love people by the end of the night when you've gone out raving. It's not, right? It's the movement, it's the rhythm. That's what makes you love people. That's where the oxytocin kicks in. Actually, alcohol dampens that connection to yourself and also to others. We think, you know, we live in a culture that says otherwise, but it's not the truth. And lots of people are cottoning onto that now. There's so much more day raving coming, sober raving becoming available. So, you know, I feel like in some ways we're returning to the ancient ways. We're returning, and as a role in my day job as a social prescriber, where I'm signposting people to non-clinical support, you know, I don't want to speak ill of antidepressants because I know that they have a place, right? However, you know, let's be real, lots of people don't get any benefit from them. Lots of people gain negative side effects as a result of them.
And become addicted.
And they were never, ever meant to be a long-term option.
No. Also, I'm a firm believer, and I'm happy to say this, is it just defers the problem for another day. It doesn't actually help help you resolve the cause. It just defers it for another day.
I totally agree. And you know, there's some people where I've seen them taking the antidepressants, and what it's done is it's taken the edge off, and it's helped them to kind of, you know,
to function and
to
be
move a little
the grinder, the animal that the society wants us to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Push through things.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not always the answer. But I have seen it work for people where they've used it for a period, then come off it. But it's about, I always say, well-being is a toolbox. You know, because what I won't ever say is that dancing will solve all your problems. What I am saying is make it part of your toolbox. And so, you know, things like nature. In my role, we call it the 5 ways to well-being. I don't know if you use this. So connection. So connection can mean to nature. It could mean to your pet. It could mean to another human being. You know, it's just finding connection. Giving. So, you know, giving of your time, giving of your energy. Like, it's about finding purpose, isn't it? When we give, we feel like we add value, and that's a really deep human need. Movement. So again, I'm choosing the word movement over exercise, because how many of us are just not moving because we think that equals a 50-minute spin class, when actually you could just shack out in your kitchen for 3 minutes and be moving more than you were the day before. And that's do you know what I mean? That's leveling up. Anyway, doesn't matter. I don't have to go down that route, right? But the point is, Sophie told me about Movement is Medicine. I went down to London to Hackney, where they were delivering Emma at the time. She's not at the moment because she's studying a PhD all around music, electronic music, and the benefits of that at the moment. Really insightful. Definitely worth following, and especially if you're about that. But I went down, took part in her movement medicine class, and Lou, I don't know if I ever told you this, mate, when I came out of that class, I had never ever in my life felt that way in my body. I didn't know I could feel rest in my body like that. I'd never known regulation like it. And it highlighted to me how I live with this underlying anxiety all the time. And that is definitely PTSD related. It's childhood trauma related. But I dropped into my body in a way that I had never done before. And as a facilitator of movement medicine now, I still don't, because obviously I'm coaching, and that's why when Emma has her classes back up and running, I will be going down there to do that, because I need that, and I make time as well, at home and in nature, to just throw it down, just really let go.
She really does.
Yeah.
Watching their videos.
I love it. I really love it. But it's so meaningful because, God, again, his hand is at work. Growing up in a emotionally neglectful, abusive, and other stuff going on, I would go for runs, and I think I've said this to you before, and I've said it on, elsewhere, but I would go for runs, and those runs would turn into me dancing in the fields. And I did that to keep myself going. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. It was through the movement as medicine training. So after Sophie linked me up, after I went down there and tried out the class, and actually on my way down there, I kept bursting into tears. And I went down there with my husband and the children, and my children were like, "Why do you keep crying?" I was like, "Because I'm going to meet with my purpose. I just know I'm going, it's God, he's working through it. This is part of, and so, yeah, I went down there, qualified. I think I joined up. I wrote this on my piece of paper. I must mention this because I just feel, again, it's that tapestry. Went down for my class. A month later, I've signed up. Now, there's this house track, right? I think it's by Alex Adair. Might have got that wrong. It's called Make Me Feel Better. Right? I love my house. If you love house music, follow me. Come to my classes, right? Because I will play plenty house for you. But this song is called Make Me Feel Better. And it's interesting because when I became a Christian, right, all the genres that I used to love, Northern Soul, house music, garage, I just dropped it all because I thought, I'm a Christian now. I better get into all the holy stuff, right? Okay. Yeah, well, this is what I mean, right? And I just feel like I just, denied a massive part of myself, really. And actually, there's loads of really wholesome music out there that's not Christian, right? And I do think lyrics matter, okay, but I also think music is like God's given gift to us to express everything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like everything can be expressed through song, and it needs to be sometimes. So anyway, through this whole movement medicine thing, I feel like God just switched me back on to the music that I love. Do you know what I mean? He was like, you were never meant to stay away from this stuff. Like, the Bible says that all good things come from the Lord, including house music, right? Do you know what I mean? So it reconnected me with one of my first loves, which is music, okay, and then dancing as well, because again, without speaking ill of anyone, my dad did say some things to me when I was younger that stopped me from pursuing dance, and a lot of it was, you don't look like a dancer, so don't waste your time, so. I was reading something the other day, and it was saying about how trauma is not just held in the memory. It's held. It's about trauma is when the body didn't respond the way that it wanted to because it didn't feel safe to. Right. So something happens to you, and you don't say what you want to say, or you stop a movement because you're bracing yourself instead, or something like that. So a lot of trauma recovery is about completing that movement response that didn't get fulfilled in the moment of that trauma. because with our mind, and I don't, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I just have lived experience of it, so I'm not maybe always communicating it or articulating it as well as someone else. So don't take me as like an expert, but just so that's a little disclaimer going out there. But what it says to me, I'm like, yeah, that gets. And I just sometimes think to myself, maybe all of this dancing that I'm doing now, in some ways, it feels like a recovery of the days that my dad said to me, don't bother, don't go there. He shut down something massive in me. And in some ways, it's like I'm like recovering back all the movement that I could and should have gone down, Anyway, that feels very vulnerable sharing that.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that as well. And anyone listening, it's beautiful that she has shared that, because there's never too late. Yeah, that's the beauty in it. Yeah, it's never too late to reconnect with those dreams, those hopes, yourself. You've gone back to your real, true self.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my Lord. And that's why I feel like the zebra is so significant, right? Because if you think of zebras, what is it? They've all got individual stripes, right?
And they look the same, but they're not.
They look the same, but they're not. They are not. And I just feel like God gave me in some way my brand, right? Which is be your wildest self. Be you. Like, just be you. And that's why I'm bold and audacious enough to call myself the Audua, right? Because that is my message. Like, how many of us are shaped and molded? I just think I've recently had that diagnosis for ADHD. And I just think, as a child, I had to switch myself off so much, because we're made to sit down, we're made to, be still. And it's just not the way that I'm designed to be. And I'm on a mission now to totally get myself out of the office job environment, because it's not working for me. It's not giving me what I need. But for a lifetime, for 40 years, I've just fitted in that cookie cutter shape that I was told, this is where you must go. This is what success looks like. I remember I finished school, I'm drifting off, but it is all really tied in. Like, it feels like God used the tragedy of Erica to reconnect me with the real me, and then make sure that whilst I'm reconnecting with the real me, that my message is to tell everyone else, you do the same. You find your way. And dance is such a powerful way of reconnecting mind and body. Like when we have been dissociated or disconnected from ourselves, you get to meet the real you, not the mum you, not the boss lady you, not all these different roles, just who you are as a human being. And so I don't know where to go from that. That just feels I
think that's the power of grief. And some people might not take this kindly, especially if they're at the beginning stages of their grief. But I've only just recently had clarification. What's the word? I don't know. But it's dawned on me literally this
revelation.
Yeah, revelation. Just the other day that and it'll be 6 years this year for Zion. But wow, he freed me.
Wow.
He freed me.
Go on, tell me.
Because he freed me to be able to go back to myself, to find myself, to be myself again. That gets lost sometimes with life and other people and their opinions and their thoughts. And if we allow that in too much, we lose ourselves. Yeah. And we shrink ourselves around certain people. Or, I was always told, you're too loud, or you talk too fast, or, and I would consciously make an effort to talk quieter, or to not talk, or to make sure I'm talking slowly. And it would feel uncomfortable for me in my own skin, but I would do that to make other people feel at ease, or to feel more comfortable. But in these last few years, and I've probably offended a lot of people in the last few years, and I've shedded a lot of people, and people will look at me and have a different opinion of me, and it might not always be a nice opinion of me. But I've always worried about that before. Like, I always want people to like me. I always wanted to be the helpful one, or to be the reliable one. And now I couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's what I say about being free.
Yeah. Oh my, do you know what? And I love that because
I do care a little bit, but I'm trying not to.
No, and we do. And it is about resetting, isn't it? It's about resetting and living in line with our values, right? Because it's so easy to let the world stick to us. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that's amazing, Lou, that as you said, through all of this, Zion has freed you. And I can say the same thing, that my journey and this whole movement medicine thing, it feels like I feel like I do it all with her. I do it with her always, like, really, right there. I'm like, you started this for me, Erica. Like, we're doing this together. So I might read with my children that are here today, but I dance daily with Erica, and I mean, I do try and get my children dancing. And you know what's so amazing? I mean, I'm literally like building a machine with my daughter, right? So, besides the whole movement medicine thing, which, let me just wrap that up, right, is a body focused meditation followed by rave inspired movement. It's all about releasing excess adrenaline, cortisol that's caught up in your body. Every emotion, every stress response that gets activated, often there's a body based experience that comes as a result of it. And then what's happening for so many of us, because we're living more sedentary lives, because we're not moving enough, etc., all that energy, where does it get held? In the body. And that's what causes the dysregulation. And so if you're living with, or if you're working through acute, chronic, or post-traumatic stress, allowing yourself to engage in mindful movement where you're just letting go. And the best way to do that is just by closing your eyes and putting up the music as loud as you can, or as loud as you enjoy, and just allowing yourself to let go. I saw something the other day, and it was talking about 5 universal tools for well-being, right? Will Smith, it was a small little clip. I don't know what program he's got going out. I think dopamine was one of the things he was talking about, but everyone will know that, right? We need dopamine hits. Okay. And if you're neurodiverse, you're certainly seeking after that more than maybe the average person or whatever. But one of the things he mentioned was surrender, right? He said, and I don't know what that necessarily even looks like for, I'm sure there's 100 different ways that can come about. But when I'm on the dance floor, that's what I'm doing. I'm surrendering to the movement. I'm just letting my body go. And there's something so deeply
it's powerful.
It is. It's like, powerful. I don't know if it's a spiritual experience for everyone, but you kind of enter that flow state. And I suppose it doesn't matter what music I'm listening to, I'm kind of always worshipping my God as a result of it. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm alive. And actually neuroscience is backing up what I already know to be true, because I think they say that there's a chemical release with movement. It's like the body's natural antidepressant, right? So when you're moving, it's that chemical release so it's that body up approach. So you move the body to calm the mind. Okay, so I'm moving, that chemical is released. I think scientists are calling it the hope molecules, right? And it's literally what we're doing is we are grounding ourselves in the present moment. Okay, we are releasing that old stagnant emotion, that old trauma, that tension, that emotional pain, what it is. We're releasing it from the body, right, without the need to work it out, right? Which, hallelujah, is so good. Like, I love the fact that I've brought about healing not through having to find the words.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
So difficult.
Yeah. But I haven't got the words, and that's because the way I've been designed is to release things that have been held in the body. Because when we go through trauma stress, often the brain will go offline, right? But what is present? The body.
Yeah.
So the body's present. So the body's the one that's holding on to it, and it's the body that we need to release through. Yeah. So please, if you are listening to this, I would just say, like, Joy is not
on Instagram, because she's amazing.
Joy is not something that you wait to access once your life is all well put together.
Yeah.
right? Because if you wait on that, some of you will never tap into it, okay? Joy, historically, our ancestors would have used it as a tool for survival. You know, if you think about like the history of Black people, do you know what I mean, and the oppression that they've been through, you know, carnival, where does that originate from?
Yeah.
It originates from people being oppressed, and just out of the need to come up and rise up out of that, they would come together, dance like no one's watching, release, connect. They just find a mindful moment to be like, I choose joy. And, you know, the neuroscience again backs up what the Bible already knows, is that stress kills. Stress kills. The heavy stuff weighs down on you. You know, every emotion has like a physical heaviness to it in some ways, you know.
And it all impacts, even if I don't like to say good or bad emotions, they're just emotions, but whatever the emotion, whether it's joy, whether it's sadness, it all impacts us in some kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, like that is my testimony. God turned my mourning to dancing. That is literally, like, if you were just to sum me up, you know, my time on earth, mourning to dancing. And I'm not just talking about around the grief of Erica. Like, there was so much childhood trauma that needed processing, and 4 or 5 years of talking therapy got me to understand why I was responding the way I was, why I was so dysregulated, but it wasn't shifting me out of dysregulation.
It doesn't give you the tools.
It didn't give me the tools.
Yeah, to manage.
And so my daughter, who again hasn't breathed a breath, has given me that gift. She's given me that gift, and I'm now making it my life mission to help and support the people like me who have gone round the roundabout with the talking therapy and just thought, why am I not getting the transformation? Why am I not getting the shift?